Good evening and welcome to tonight's show from DJNTV, Disc Jockey News TV. Tonight's show is brought to you by Electra Voice, DJ Event Planner, DJ Trivia, Odyssey Innovative Designs and Cases, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, and the DJNTV Insiders.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Welcome to DJNTV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
Switching. There we go. Huh. You know, you hit a button. Technology is just so great. It's like you hit a button that should be instantaneous. And then it eventually goes. Okay, let's try this. Yeah. Hey, good evening and welcome to Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe, because tonight is the night that we talk to Ben Stowe. And of course, Donnie Lewis already pretty much concluded this show for us.
Yeah, he pretty much said it all. I think we could just kind of wrap this
pretty much.
up.
So it was a great show. Thanks, Donnie. We'll see you next time. Actually, we'll go to the after chat and talk about Ben's trip down to check out some Star Wars things, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Ben, this is a question.
Cream.
And ice cream. Oh, yeah, that's right. You're gonna have to explain that to me. That looked. I don't even know if I could grasp what I was seeing. We'll just go with that, and we'll come back to that a little later.
All right.
So.
All right.
This is the time of year when we're getting ready for wedding season. DJs are looking at that. A lot of people are thinking, I've got some friends getting married. They want to get gear. They want to do this. And really the question becomes is we can go high end with our purchases, and we can get something in the middle, or we can get something on the lower end. There's a gamut from pretty much all the major manufacturers, and then a lot of not major manufacturers.
The boring topic. Sorry, I just had to yawn.
Yeah. So my question is we've talked on past shows about the whole, buy once and you have the pain once type of thing, but not every DJ's in that. So for those DJs who are wondering, they both in essence sound good when they test them out wherever they are. What are some of the things that really separate the different lines of quality of gear when you're going from more of a cheap to a more of an investment?
Well, I'm going to start right out with the controversial, and I'm going to probably make some people mad here, and I'm okay with that, because you said, they listen to them and they both sound good. And I will say this, I think there are some DJs out there that have excellent ears. And there are some DJs out there that I think are absolutely tone deaf.
Yep.
I experienced this with a friend of mine who was talking about his system, and it didn't sound bad. It sounded horrible. I mean, it was whatever was worse than bad. And he was just he goes, doesn't this sound great? And I'm like, no. You can barely tell what the song is. Like, you can make a contest out of it. Can you name that tune? I don't know. And anyway, so I think I guess I'll say it this way. That's one of the things you typically will find, is that from entry level to, and we'll say high end, and I'm going to come back and challenge you to kind of define that. There is a difference, and you can hear the difference. We'll pick on our friends at Electra Voice, because everybody knows I love Electra Voice, and they can take a good beating, because I think they're probably the number one loudspeaker company in the world now. They can take it. So, but if you take ZLX, which is good, and you play the same program material, play the same song, everything the same in that and the there's a clear difference. There's a very apparent difference. And so I guess the way I'll answer your question, the first one is to say that just because you don't hear the difference doesn't mean it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you say, well, they sound the same to me. Well, just take it from me. They're not.
So that's a great point. For those of us who've been doing this for many years, and we do have hearing damage, is there a way to mathematically or some other way, or is it just something to get a couple of people who maybe have better ears than you? How would you recommend somebody like myself who doesn't hear as well as I did 20 years ago?
Yeah, that is a challenge, and it's a challenge for me too, because I'm guilty of that as well. I think part of that is hopefully we lose our hearing gradually and we begin to compensate in our minds. I still think I'm a pretty good sound engineer, but I know that I don't hear as well as I used to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing would be to get your hearing tested and to be honest with yourself and learn where your shortcomings are. But you can also do it mathematically. You know, and I see this more and more. It used to be kind of I think it was sort of poo-pooed a little bit in the old school, but now you see more and more everywhere you go. You know, touring engineers have SMART or something running because it gives us a mathematical, unbiased measurement that allows us to validate and quantify what we're hearing. You know, one is that validation. Am I really hearing that? Yes, I am. Here it is. There's the mathematical proof on the screen. And two, you know, it gives you a chance to kind of see things that you maybe aren't hearing anymore. For example, frequencies above 16K for me, not much there anymore,
Yeah.
you know. And anyway, and of course, I have a daughter who is I don't know if she's legally deaf, but if there's where the distinction is, but hard of hearing, we'll say she's hard of hearing. You know, she has substantial hearing loss, and so I've learned a lot from her about what, you know, people do and don't hear in the world. You know, and I'm sort of aware that that's going to happen to me more over time if I don't take care of my hearing. So I guess number one is you know, you could use software to visualize that. You could play something like you know, filtered pink noise and look at the response with the measurement. And I've done that in some of the videos that I've got out on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things to be aware of though, and that is that very often we're taking these measurements in rooms that are not anechoic or acoustically perfect. So the room is going to have some factor in the measurement too. Now, if you have two speakers in the same room and you have two measurements side by side, the room is equal for both. You know, you could say, okay, well, the room has probably the same effect for both, you know, but there, I guess maybe the simplest answer you gave was to ask a few other people.
Sure.
And sound is also subjective. And so I think that's where the line gets thinner as we start comparing higher end stuff. You know, this brand versus this brand versus this brand, they all have higher end stuff.
Yeah.
And when you're comparing their higher end stuff, certain manufacturers have certain characteristics that of their sound. They kind of like their sound this way or that way or another way. And that's just sort of characteristic of how they design their boxes. And so there's going to be some subjectivity there. You know, some people might say, well, I really like the sound of XYZ speaker better. You know, I think it sounds better. And somebody else goes, no, I really like the sound of this one better. And neither person is wrong at that point. For me, what I tend to favor is accuracy. Basically, that what I put in is what I get out, so that I'm not having to work against the loudspeaker. That, you know, whatever I put to it is what comes out of it. And I'm going with as neutral or as transparent, you know, a system as possible.
Give me an idea of what a inaccurate speaker, if I'm using a phraseology to help describe that. You know, the in and the out you're saying you want as accurate as possible, but a speaker that wouldn't be that way, what would you hear, notice, or what would be the tendency of that?
Well, it could be a number of things, but it could be maybe not as crisp or defined. It could be kind of muffled on the high frequency, or it could have gaps in the coverage. You know, that maybe there's dips in the middle there somewhere where this frequency has to be compensated with an EQ.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's what EQs are for, is to help equalize rooms and speakers. But the less I have to do for the speaker, the happier I am.
Sure.
You know, the room is something I can't really control. The speaker, I don't want to have to use a lot of my EQ fixing the speaker, you know. And another thing, if we don't have linear phase EQs, the more EQ we do, we start creating phase shifts within our sounds. So it's not a, you know, magic bullet. Kind of everything's a series of compromises. So the less I have to do that, the happier I am.
Sure.
So, basically, I guess, if we think about it in terms of, again, pink noise, which if we look at that on a graph should be basically flat, equal energy across those octaves. And we play it back in a loudspeaker and we measure it in an acoustically neutral environment where the room is not part of the factor that we're looking at here. If the loudspeaker was perfect, it should be flat also.
Mm-hmm.
No loudspeaker is perfect, but the more that I have to do to achieve flat, the more I'm using up those resources just to compensate for a loudspeaker.
Sure.
And now, the second part of that is when I hear the loudspeaker right on versus a little bit off axis, the loudspeaker says, okay, this has 90-degree coverage. Okay, but does it sound the same at on axis as it does at 90 degrees? If not, the experience for those people isn't the same. So, what I'm hearing on axis if I'm mixing is not what somebody that's sitting in the side seats, or just even, a little bit to my left or my right, they're not hearing the same thing. Therefore, the mix is not right for them. So that's also important to me. How consistent is it across its arc of coverage?
Now, but that would not be something you could fix with an EQ or really any software. That's a design element, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't fix it because what you do is just going to be adjusted across the whole plane of coverage. If I start, for example, highs are one of the things we tend to lose, as we get off axis, and there's a lot of physical reasons as to why that is. Excuse me. But so if I start boosting the highs to compensate for that, it might be unpleasant, right down the middle. It might be really ripping your head off.
Wow.
So anyway, so those are some things. I think number one, they are going to sound different. That's my statement of probable fact.
Sure.
Now there's a lot of variables because there's a lot of loudspeakers out there, but I'm just going to basically say that generally speaking, a $300 speaker and a $1,100 speaker like ZLX and ETX, they should sound different. Mm-hmm. To me, there's a very clear and apparent difference, and there should be. Number two, in more cases than not, you're going to have a reliability difference.
Okay.
Sort of like, it's a terrible example, and every time I use car analogies, I get in trouble, so people can laugh at me because I'm just really not very good at it. But in fact, it was funny. I was just visiting a friend who does performance modifications on cars and that sort of thing. And I mean, I'll spot a microphone in the background of a movie. Well, he sees every car, and he knows by looking at it probably what engine's in it because it was only made in that certain, whatever. That's not me. I'm like, is that a Ford? Oh, okay. I got the make right.
Woohoo, I'm good.
Yeah, I looked for the blue oval. It took me a second. Wait, is a Shelby this? I'll just stop.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to try to use a car analogy with as awkward as it'll be, but it's kind of like taking a stock car off the dealer lot and driving NASCAR with it. Those cars are built very different. When you look at, for example, I use an extreme example, the touring line array that I use. Mm-hmm. When you look at the construction of those boxes, you just imagine that the engineers planned on you dropping this out of an airplane into a volcano and then having it get hit by a train. It's just built so well. And another thing, you see little things like the grill is attached with machine screws and threaded inserts, not wood screws. Why? Because they expect that grill's going to come off a few times. Sure. This thing's going to get maintained. It's kind of like having the pins on the hood of a NASCAR. That hood's coming off
quick. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just the name of the game. Repairs are inevitable. So first, the thing is built almost like weapons grade, kind of like an actual military Hummer versus the H3,
Mm-hmm.
They're really different. One is really built for war, and the other one just looks like you're going to war, And that's probably a great analogy. And that's not to say that ZLX is at all bad. And I'll say this, now that we've got done kind of using EV as our example, I do want to say ZLX is the entry to EV's line. it is comfortably at the middle or the top of some other brands.
Yes, well, I would agree. Yeah,
there are some other brands, and I'm not going to name names, but there are some other brands who don't even make anything that good. So we're not picking on them. It just happens to be the beginning of their line. But I'm saying from there, it moves up the food chain, and you get into some of their install stuff, their stadium stuff, their touring stuff, and it's just built so much better, and it sounds so much better, and it can just take such substantial and tremendous abuse. And if you want to know what I'm talking about when I say abuse, imagine a co-headlining show of Hailstorm and Stone Sour, because I did that with my rig and we heated that sucker up. I promise you, and it took it for hours, other boxes and it's done 100 shows since, it's just another day at the office for that rig.
Oh.
We've got a show coming up this summer. I think, Hinder and Buck Cherry. Well, bring it on. It's what it's built for. It's, NASCARs are built to go 200 miles an hour all day long. Try that with your stock, sedan for a while. See what happens.
You made two auto references or analogies here in this little section, and
I figured I was on a roll.
And they both were accurate and very good, actually. Brian Red's with us tonight. Brian's going to be pretty proud of you there. He'll be like, "Wow, Ben's been studying."
Yeah, I'll quit while I'm behind, I think. So, maybe it was that time I spent with my friend in Florida. He'll be relieved. He doesn't watch this show. He's not at all interested in what I do. But
not so much. But that's right.
So those, I think, are the key differences. Just overall price equals performance most times. Now, I wanted to challenge you to quantify what is high end, because I think that's a really difficult question to answer. And I think that, we've talked before about having the right rig for the gig.
Yes.
Should everybody have a high-end system? Oh, absolutely. Of course, because money grows on trees.
Of course. Yes.
Wouldn't everybody want to? However, physics is unrelenting. And we've talked about that many times. ETX uses 18 millimeter birch. It's heavy.
It is. Yeah.
And it's funny. It cracks me up because I have a compact, lightweight line array box in the X2. It is categorized as large format, but it's actually a fairly small box, which I love because it's truck space and weight. But these small, lightweight, compact line array boxes weigh 94 pounds a piece.
Ugh.
And we're lifting 12 or 16 of them in the air all the time. Now a motor is, I'm not.
Yeah.
But in the DJ world, people tend to kind of lose their stuff when it gets to 50 pounds. They're like, that's heavy.
Yeah, how are we going to get that up? Yeah.
But again, that helps quantify, that helps explain the difference to go, yeah, no, not really. Because a 50-pound box simply wouldn't survive in the world I'm in. Now, does that mean you all need to go buy that kind of rig? No, absolutely not. Not unless you're doing what we're doing with it, right? You don't drive a NASCAR to work,
Right.
Maybe kind of fun probably, but Winston Cup, Busch Series, whatever. I guess it's not Winston Cup anymore, is it? It's it shows you what I know. What is it? Monster?
I would have gone with that. It sounded good to me. You're
Brian, help me out. It's I don't know. Doesn't matter. So I think I'd have to say let's quantify high end. There are Maui has not Maui, LD Systems, which makes the Maui, has their Porsche inspired column speaker, which is like $3,000 or $4,000. Does it sound better? Yeah. It should. Does it outperform the other less expensive boxes they have? I would say yes. A lot of what you're paying, though, is for the aesthetic and the look and the design. And again, it's Porsche inspired, and you're probably paying something for the name.
Yeah.
Will it get you more clients? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. That's an individual thing. Is it worth it for you? I don't know. I think there definitely is a payoff. Again, I plan to run my system for 15 years.
Right.
That's longer than the lifespan for most typical DJ speakers.
And that kind of brings us to what Brian was just wondering if we had hit, is longevity. When you're talking about a quality sound system, the expected life of that for your performance, 15 years in your particular case.
Yeah, and that's not going to be without maintenance, of course. But again, those grills are attached with machine screws because they're designed to come off a lot. I'm happy to report that, I've had very, very, very minor maintenance to do on them, but that's going to increase as the boxes age. That's just fact. Transducers are moving devices. They're going to wear out. There's going to be failure. That's just how it works. But yeah, longevity certainly is a thing. And so, I think that we should not try to get away as cheap as we can. But that's an individual choice. I think you're going to enjoy better sound. I think you're going to enjoy more reliable sound and a longer lifespan when you get into better boxes. But at the same time, there is a point of diminishing returns where what should you spend? What is high end? Where do you stop? Is it $1,000 a box? Is it $1 million sound system? That really depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
I realize our target audience, which I love our target audience, by the way, are typically doing small corporate events and weddings and that sort of thing. If you plan to do arena shows with Stone Sour and Hailstorm, you better spend $1 million. That's just the way it is.
Right.
If you don't, one, you probably won't get the gig. And two, if you do, you won't have anything left of your sound system after. You'll be burning embers hanging from the rafters, but anyway, that would be ludicrous to do, in the DJ realm. I just can't think of an application where that would make sense for typical DJ wedding function, right? So
yeah, certainly
common sense has to prevail here.
That it would. $1 million. Yeah, they were having fun with that.
Well, it's a round number.
Yeah, exactly. And well, what I posted the little hand sanitizer picture a couple of days ago, that I found some at Dollar General up here in Minnesota. And it's like I'm taking bids and, the $1 million from Dr. Evil.
Boy, that is just crazy. I vowed to myself that as much as I wanted to get into the coronavirus thing today, I wouldn't. But I'll say this, if you're one of the people hoarding soap, and hoarding hand sanitizer, it's okay to have what you need. But if you're hoarding it,
let's use a car analogy.
I don't have any more.
Come on! We could have had we could have had a hat trick. 2 successful car analogies, and if we've got a third one based around hoarding soap.
Well, let me tell you this: if you're hoarding that stuff, here's a little wake-up call for you. You got to keep other people's hands clean too, in order to get rid of the virus. You dope. So stop it. Stop it.
Because they have to wash their hands and they have to clean their tushies. And if you've taken everything, they can't do either.
I don't get the toilet paper thing. That's another thing. By the way, this is so, we just had a big, long get to know Ben session at the conference. And I did enjoy that. It was scary to be that vulnerable and to be, open about those things. But I feel good about the presentation that I gave. In case people are wondering what I was thinking about doing, what Ben wanted to be when he grew up before he kind of stumbled sideways into the sound industry, which, by the way, I think everybody now, I love being in the sound industry. I can't imagine doing anything else. And I'm so glad that I'm here. But if you had asked me before that tipping point in my life, what I was going to do when I grew up, I was going to be a virologist, which is someone who studies viruses. In fact, I even wrote a paper on the risks of HIV transmission in contact sports because I was a high school wrestler.
Sure, yeah.
So, anyway, the risk is fairly low, by the way. But yeah, so this has been a really interesting thing for me to kind of watch in that lens of ancient history of my life, to watch how we react to this thing and to look at the different sets of data and that sort of thing. So one, wash your, it shouldn't take a pandemic to have you wash your hands. It's just gross.
Yeah.
Wash your hands, exercise, eat healthy, and of course, a little common sense and hope for the best. So
let's before we wrap things up, I want to, because again, a lot of folks got to learn more about the Ben Stowe and behind the business or the early years of NLFX Pro. If you guys are wanting to go check that out, go out to DJNTVtraining.com. There's a link on the front page there. You can click on that and you can get that video to check that out. And all the videos that we had are going to be going up from the show.
I know a few new insiders signed up because they wanted to see it. Now they're probably going to cancel next month, but no, they listen. Not if they're smart. There's so much great stuff there. They should. And I don't. By the way, viewers, I just want to tell you this straight up. I don't get a penny out of the deal. I don't care if you're an insider or not. But you should be. Like it doesn't benefit me financially, but there's a lot of great stuff there.
Yeah, there really is. I was actually going through the list today as I was working on a couple things on the website, and I was like, gosh, there's a couple of videos that are 18 months old in there. One of them was. It's like, I remember that, and that was a really good video. I need to go back and watch it again. And I was probably part of it. But yeah, it's just that There's a lot of great, and even on our YouTube channels, we've been doing shows now we started in 2014. So, we'll do the math and come up with that, 6 years.
Yeah. You and I, what have we done? 200 shows maybe?
Yeah. We've done quite a few shows and so
I can't
far
believe people still watch.
our wives are still letting us talk on a regular basis. So that is something.
Actually, funny you say that, since we're having a private conversation in front of thousands of our closest friends.
Exactly.
Cheyenne wants to coordinate a family trip this summer. So, I guess everybody knows my wife's name now. Anyway, so yeah, they know anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, if you're not a DJNTV insider, it's probably worth $20 just to see me cry. So you can go watch my speech and see me cry for $20. And anyway,
and be part of that.
Yeah, she's going to reach out to you, try to get that figured out, so we can maybe make something happen.
Yeah, we were actually talking about buzzing up your way here the next few days because we need to do that. So. Awesome. Well, I'm here until Sunday, and then I fly out to Vegas. Obviously, there's another show. Another thing coming up. Yeah, we'll be down here at Mobile Beat Las Vegas. Then I'm on the road doing some sound for about a week or so. I get back on the 25th after doing some arena shows. So I've got to go out and practice what I preach. Yeah, so. You're going to be a busy man. Go heat up those boxes. So you spent some time last week. We were off on Tuesday because you were doing some family time. Share with us just a couple, if you can, of those moments that we as fathers, when you have the family together like that, just a couple of those and those moments where you're like, oh, that was really kind of a cool family moment. My kids got along for a week. That was pretty good. That is very impressive because as the 3-day rule comes in so. Yeah, and we were gone more than a week, and for me it was. I'll tell you what. I'll be honest. It was really hard for me because I had just got back from your show, and the next day flew out to be with the family, and I really felt bad because this is a big deal to the kids and my wife, and they had been looking forward to this, and I just wanted to go home. I just so much just wanted to sleep in my own bed and recover and rest. From being on the road. And while I was gone, I was dealing with a lot of issues. Some were unnecessary, I think. But, when you're the president, if it comes to your desk, it shouldn't be an easy problem. It should be a hard problem. The easy problems should get solved somewhere else. So you're left with the hard ones. And that's my job. And it's tough to take vacation away from that. It's tough to leave your customers in a spot. In fact, I find myself simply unable to do it. Sure. So I did spend a lot of my vacation working, dealing with unpleasant things. Obviously, there are some unexpected problems with supply chain issues due to COVID-19 and that sort of thing, and then other things. But we had a good time. We did have a good time. And I reminded myself many times, I kind of had to just pull myself aside, sort of, get over here, talk about it now, that this was for the kids. And this was their vacation and not my vacation. And I think that as fathers, that's one of the things that we have to do. We have to, it's not about us. It's about, collectively them. And because of that, because the focus was on them and having a good time, I did too. Right. Kids will help you remember what's important. And sometimes that's, just a bowl of ice cream or a toy lightsaber or just a laugh. Kids have a way of bringing you back to what matters, I think. So speaking of ice cream, seriously, what was that bucket that you had? That is called the kitchen sink. And it is at a place called Beaches and Cream on the Disney Boardwalk. And I had been told about it. And I was very fortunate that not only was my family on this trip, but also an employee that has been my coworker at NLFX for more than 25 years, and his wife. And in fact, I introduced him and his wife to each other 20 some years ago. And so they went with us, and it was, even though we're coworkers, it really was more like an extended family trip. Yeah. And we had a really good time. And he said, you got to check this thing out. Obviously he's known me for a long time. He knew that I liked ice cream, and I don't have I guess I could pull up the list here real quick, but I know it was 8 scoops of ice cream. Let me just let's see here. Yeah, it was like my big dog's dog dish size. Where it was huge. It was called the kitchen sink, and it looked like a kitchen sink. So 8 scoops of ice cream, half a cup fudge topping, half a cup butterscotch topping, half a cup peanut butter topping, 1 medium banana, 1 cinnamon spice cupcake. Well, that's what that was. 1 angel food.
I just ate it. 1 angel food cupcake. I think I mentioned 8 scoops of ice cream of various flavors. 3 tablespoons of chocolate syrup. 1/4 cup marshmallow cream. 1/4 cup strawberry topping. 1/4 cup pineapple topping. Pineapple. An entire can of whipped cream. A brownie, 6 inch by 6 inch brownie. That's a big brownie.
That is a big brownie.
1 regular size candy bar, 4 chocolate cookies with cream filling, 1 tablespoon sliced almonds, 1 tablespoon dark and white chocolate shavings, 1 tablespoon chocolate cookies with cream filling, 1 tablespoon. By the way, this entire list is on the Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe Facebook page, if you're curious. 1 tablespoon of chopped jellied orange slices, 1 tablespoon milk chocolate morsels, 1 tablespoon peanut butter chip morsels, 1 tablespoon chocolate sprinkles, 1 tablespoon rainbow sprinkles, and a 1/2 cup of maraschino cherries, which that is the cherry on top for me, literally speaking. I enjoyed it. And now, first of all, when the waitress was telling me what's in this thing, I said, "You're not scaring me. I don't think you know who you're talking to here. I don't think you know who you're dealing with." I have eaten the entire banana split at Peppermill, which I plan to do again when I'm in Vegas again. However, I didn't eat anything else for a while after that. We split this. There were 6 of us that ate this thing. But yeah, between the 6 of us, we did polish it. Polish it off. So it's great. When they serve this thing, they shut the lights off and they turn on like all these yellow police beacons, and they make a big deal because they figure somebody's about to die. So, you know,
give them less. Oh, fun.
It was delicious. And my kids helped with that, and we had a good time. So.
Excellent. Well, Ben, we're going to wrap things up tonight. Once again, thank you, my friend. Good chatting. Next week, you are going to be then out of town, so we will probably be looking at 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think, you know what? I have an arena show on the 24th, which is a Tuesday. So
so we'll probably be about 3 weeks then from tonight.
Yeah.
We'll be back, and then we'll get an update and have another show. I've got a series of questions that have been coming in, and I've been kind of holding those. So maybe we'll come back with another 10 questions for Ben Stowe. So if you guys have got questions, send those to me, private message those to me, so that way I can get these lined up, because there's nothing more fun than surprising Ben with questions about all sorts of things.
Why not? Let her rip. Viewers, I'll miss you. Feel free to watch some of those 200 back episodes we've done, and I'll see you when I get back after. Like I said, got to take my speakers out and play.
Yeah, got to go and do the stuff so you can come back and report of how those things all kind of will work together.
I got to pay for that family trip, so off on the road I go.
The ice cream isn't free. All right, Ben. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. We'll be back in about 20 minutes. Brian is in the area here, getting ready to talk about uplighting and selling that uplighting. We'll see you then.